let the healing begin.
Welcome back to the Zipmouth Motivation Podcast or Zipmouth Motivation Show, whatever you want to say, where we have real conversations about mindset, resilience, growth, and what it truly takes to transform your life. So many people talk about success as if it's something that happens overnight. But the truth is, most powerful stories begin in struggle. They begin in moments where the odds are like completely stacked up against you, where your path forward isn't clear, and where the decision you make could determine the rest of your life. Today, we're talking about adversary, education, discipline, and courage it takes to rebuild your life when circumstances try to define you. Because sometimes success doesn't start with opportunity, it starts with survival. It starts with deciding that your past is not going to get you, is not the final destination for your life. But your final destination is you pushing towards your future. And today's guest embodies all of that kind of transformation, but you're gonna have to wait for 30 seconds for her to come on. Welcome, Miss Chanda. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, ma'am. Welcome to the Zipmouth Motivation Show, where we just keep it real and we stay focused on what is going to support the community. So we're going to get right into it, because I read some stuff about you and I was like, this lady is amazing. I was like, okay. But we're going to start at the beginning. I'm going to pace myself. You shared, you left high school at the age of 15. What, like, what happened that made you say, like, okay, this is it. I'm leaving this?
Honestly, it's an interesting conversation I had with my mom. And she had stayed out with my brother's father, and I don't know what got a hold of me. But I was in the position of being an adult and being a child, and I kind of got some courage from somewhere. And I say courage because my mama did not play, right? And
Right.
I told her, I said, I can't do this. And she was like, well, just stay home. I said, no. I can't be an adult and a child. She's like, I said, so I can't keep missing school and stuff. 15, okay?
Right.
And, she was out all night looking for his dad. And so she looked at me and she said, when I get home, you better tell me how you're going to get your GED. And I said, okay, because I was 15. She didn't put me under the bed. She didn't knock me out. So in my mind, I had one. But that started that particular journey. So sure enough, I turned 16 a few months later. I went to Job Corps. I took the test and I stayed there for a month and came home and I had my GED just like that at 16 years old. And so quite the journey, right? But it's my reality. So thank God it didn't stop there, right? But
it did. And I'm proud of you though, because at 15 deciding like, okay, I can't do this. Like I can't be a child and an adult. That was a big decision. That's the first major decision you made. And then the fact that you even got your GED, because a lot of people will say like, I can't be a child and an adult. And they'll say, well, I'm going to get my GED, and they never do it.
Yeah.
They never do it. So I'm not proud the way it had to happen, but I'm proud that it did happen, because you wouldn't be the woman you are today if that didn't happen. So how did you face challenges like with friends, like, because you grew up fast, So how did you face challenges with like making friendships with people or having friendships?
Ironically enough, the friend group that I have, we are actually not close now, but we're still all in contact, like on socials, that whole thing.
Mhm.
And it was interesting how we all started kind of similar and we all kind of went our own journeys.
Right.
But back then, it was like nobody asked any questions. It was like it was what it was. And so I did have friends that I was very close with because I was growing up so fast. Where I would hang out at their house to whenever I felt like going home and all that kind of stuff. But
Right.
nobody. It was like it was what it was. So people just accepted it. Nobody questioned it. And if their parents said anything, it was never directly to me. Like I was always welcome. I wasn't a bad kid.
Right.
Um, so that was great. That part of it was great.
That was the good part. Many
Mhm.
people might see dropping out of school as the end of their educational journey. But
Mhm.
in your case, it became the beginning of a different path.
Mhm.
What motivated you to pursue Job Corps after that?
Well, she gave me the ultimatum to go and figure out how I'm gonna get my GED. And so that was the path I chose at that time. And it was like, okay, they'll take me at 16, I can get a GED. And so I went and took my test and I came home. Uh, so it's just the way the cards fell. I
Right.
was not aware of other options at that time because I was
Okay.
15. Yeah.
Okay.
I,
So eventually you joined the United States Navy.
mm,
And
years
that
later.
experience, like you like, years later, that experience seems to have played like a major role in shaping your discipline and your
Mm.
mindset. How did the military environment change your perspective on responsibility and opportunity?
Interestingly enough, 10 years later, at the age of 25, I was running from an abusive marriage. I had 3 young children and I was pursuing college and went into the military. And so when you talk about responsibility, that was me being responsible because I knew that my children needed stability and the
Mhm.
military was going to offer me that. Now they did tell me, "Oh, we're going to pay for you to go to school," right? Um,
Right.
but that was just the icing on the cake for me. It was finding safety and stability for my girls.
Hmm.
So that's what led me into the Navy sometime later.
Okay. And so we rolling into that educational piece during the time in the Navy, you also earned your associate's and bachelor's degree.
I did.
What? See, girl, that's why I said this lady is really amazing. Like she really playing herself down. I gotta look up here. What did you educate? What did education or what did education start to represent for you at that stage in your life?
It represented opportunity. So because they kind of lured me in there at the time when I went in the military, I was in a nursing degree program. I had no idea that while I was in active duty, it was almost impossible to get a nursing degree. And
Mhm.
so I no longer pursued a nursing degree, of course, but I still wanted to walk away with something. And so
Right.
while I was active duty, I got my associates and my bachelor's.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And you've also been open to like you talked about your abusive marriage a little bit, which takes a tremendous courage to decide like with small children, I'm gonna leave.
Mhm.
For listeners who may be facing like a similar circumstance, because this is something that's running rampant in the world right
Mhm.
now,
Yeah.
gave you the strength to make that decision?
My babies. And this is what I do tell young ladies when we have these conversations because I'm really open and honest about my journey because it may help somebody else, right? When I left my husband while he was abusive, I just had a baby. So I went into the military and left him, and she was less than 6 months old. And
Right.
so the youngest one. And when I came from the hospital, I was sick and he threatened me. He's like, all you do is lay around with this baby. He said, I gave it to you. I'll take her from you. And I knew, like, yeah, my claws went out. And I knew at some point I started hiding weapons around the house. And I knew at some point he was going to kill me or I was going to kill him. And all I could think about was, what about my babies? Right.
Ooh.
And yeah. And so when I decided to leave him, I didn't yet love myself enough to leave. I loved them enough to leave. Right. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I tell ladies when I run into situations like this, in full transparency, sometimes you got to find something that you love more than yourself to walk away because it's not always choosing us. At that point, I was choosing my babies, my girls.
Right. Right, because you don't learn to love yourself until after you leave sometime, you know?
Yeah.
So you have to find something that you love more than yourself and say, I gotta leave because of this, you know,
Mhm.
because you don't love yourself. And it's hard. It's hard to leave
It
abusive space. But I commend you for leaving and I have a lot of respect for you. We have a similar story, so I completely understand that. I completely
is.
so now you gotta leave for the kids.
That's it.
And that's what helps you. One of the most in your career path later, you moved into the area of logistic, engineering, and project managing.
Mhm.
Those fields require strategic thinking, right? And strong leadership. How did that professional background prepare you for entrepreneurship?
Um, well, I think the military, the discipline, the structure, right? The go-getter attitude kind of helped give me that fortitude to kind of step into corporate, which is what you're talking about, my corporate piece. And in corporate, you just translate the military bearing over to professionalism, right? And how you show up and knowing how to talk and how to articulate. And so all of that plays a part. And so when you think about the way we think as humans, the men typically think logical, rational, but as a project manager, I had to think logical and rational, right? As an engineer to work that piece, but also as a survivor, right? So when I came out of that abusive situation, I'm thinking logical and rational because I'm in survival mode. And it
Right,
just translated really well over into my professional life, right? Because I'm still in survival mode. I'm just showing up differently in these different spaces. So I think in each phase, I evolved, right? I'm changing because we change every day. But
right.
in order to fit the role and the hat that I'm wearing, so by the time I got to entrepreneurship, it was like, okay, I got this dynamic down, the strategy, the project management, the Lean Six Sigma. Like I got that, right? Because I've been doing it. I've been moving in that way, growing and learning and evolving. Like
Absolutely.
the space, it allows me to be me and service people that I can relate to and be
Mm,
creative, right? And
right.
it plays very well, I think.
I think that it plays very well, and I hope that people caught what you said, just like you evolved with each thing in
Mhm.
your life because you started, like at home being a parent at a child, and then you started, like you went to school and you got your GED, and then after your GED, you went to, Job Corps, and Job Corps is a hard place too at times. You know what I'm saying? And so then from there, you went to the military, now you got your bachelor, like you evolved year
Yeah.
after year, time after time. And then now that you're in this space, what is something that you're trying to create here in this entrepreneurship?
More than anything, community and plant seeds. I
Right,
think that everything we do in life is a seed. And so how we live our life impacts the people that come behind us,
right,
right? And so I think it's important that you take that in consideration. And so in entrepreneurship, servicing the people that's coming behind me, I'm planting seeds to hopefully impact their futures so that it makes a difference, right? The kind of ripple effect, if that makes any sense.
it makes a lot of sense because that's what you need that ripple effect. So through all of that you went through, you started getting emotion, and then one of the most difficult moments in your life was the loss of your brother to gun violence.
It was.
Experiences like that can completely change like the person, their perspective.
Mhm.
And how did tragedy influence the direction of your purpose in your work?
Literally 2 weeks before I lost my brother, I left government service and went into back to government contracting. But I was doing it as myself, and I lost him like 2 weeks after that. And so, what you realize is that one, when I lost him, he was only 27. And losing someone to a car accident or losing someone to a terminal, disease is completely different than losing someone through a violent act because you feel like someone else took that, right, took their life from you.
Absolutely.
And it jolted me in the sense of I started thinking along the lines of legacy. Like if I leave here, I've always thought about identity and legacy to an extent, but I started thinking about if I leave here today, will I be happy with the person I've been? Like, how
Mhm.
I showed up in the world. And so
Right.
it made me start reconsidering what success looked like, how I spent my time. what I hold dear, right? And so even though I was doing all the things and I was checking all the blocks and showing up the way the world says I should show up, it was like, am I a good daughter? Am I a good sister? Am I a good mother? Right?
Mhm.
When I meet a stranger, what do they take away from me? And so that was a huge part of it. The other thing was when I lost him, because I was so impacted, I started a nonprofit. And so it allowed me to serve in the community where he lost his life. And
Right.
so in serving, not only did I heal, but that's where the passion came from to actually do the coaching piece, the coaching and the strategy piece. Um, but yeah, definitely an impact. You can't, I don't think you could go through something so tragic and walk away and you're not different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Can you share a little bit about, because you talked about the nonprofit, can you share a little bit what your mission is and what impact you're making in this space?
Sure. So we service families most likely to be affected by gun violence or who have been affected by gun violence. And we do that in a number of ways. If you know anything about that space, then families who are socioeconomically challenged, meaning that they are considered to not have access to resources, right? They tend to also be affected by gun violence in the sense of not having seasonal material needs. Their children don't have access to community resources. And so different ways that we serve them is by providing those access, but also by providing those resources. And people say, what good is it to pass out book bags every year? What good is it to give a family a Thanksgiving dinner? What good is it to give a family Christmas gifts, right? And that's just a seasonal material relief. But what it does from a community perspective is it creates a rapport in a community that they know that, one, I care about them. I'm providing a need for them. But the other thing is they trust me. And because they trust me, now they'll listen, right? And because they'll listen, now I can teach them a better way and I can give them access to resources and things like that. Whereas before, it's like, who are you, right? Because the thing is about success is when you are successful for a certain amount of time, you no longer look like the people where you come from, right? So I thought I had escaped gun violence. I had, made it out. I went through the military. I got away from abusive marriage. I raised my kids in the suburbs. Like I was in corporate. I didn't have to worry about that. And yet it still knocked on my door. Absolutely. So why do I go back and talk to these people who, when I show up in my car, with my stuff, they're like, what you want? You don't belong here.
Absolutely.
Because they can't see it anymore. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And you have to go back and plant yourself in the community so that they start to know who you are. So now it's been 8 years and I walk in and like, hey, Miss Chanda, how you doing? Right. That kind of thing, because I've been there talking to them and servicing them. And, sometimes we laugh together, sometimes we cry together. It really depends on what's going on. But they trust me not just to help them, but also to help their children, if that makes any sense.
And it makes a lot of sense. And I like how you said that piece, because I'm like you, I left one space and went to another space. So when you start going into different spaces, it becomes hard because people don't trust you anymore. They feel like, oh, you succeeded us. We don't know you no more. You ain't know us, but I did know y'all. It's just that you get busy in one world. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's not that you forgot where you came from. It's just that you just get busy. You know what I'm saying? So you have to go back in those communities and show them like, I'm a safe, I'm still a safe space. You know what I'm saying? But I'm even safer now because I got some intel that y'all don't have.
And some resources.
Yeah, I got something that y'all don't got. So come on, Today you focus on mentoring and helping women over 40 build businesses and create new opportunities for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you believe that stage of life can actually be one of the most powerful times to start something new?
So many reasons. Like you hit the spot. So first of all, I am really big on human capital. I feel like we don't harp on it enough. I feel like people should understand that every lived experience, every education, everything that you've been through is human capital. It should be considered a tool in your toolbox, and it means something. A lot of women's in that age demographic or that age group, they feel like they have nothing left to offer. And if they have done well in life, they're considered an expert and they fear starting over. They fear being seen starting over. And so imposter syndrome starts to set in because how dare you show up in the social media at this big age, right?
Mhm.
But they also feel like because a lot of times we wear so many hats and we pour into everybody else, there's nothing left for us, right? And
Mhm.
so, and finally, it is also an urgency in the third quarter, right? That 40 plus club. It's
Right.
like we don't have time to waste. We understand what it is. We on a clock, right? And so
Right.
if we can do anything with that time that we have where we're still healthy and we can still move about, even though we're on the other half of it, it is okay, let's get it done, right? The younger generation, they want to look at it, they want to play with it, they want to talk about it, but they're not ready to move. At our
Right.
age, it's like, let's go.
Right. Right. And I love how you say that because I'm in that 40 area. So I don't have time to waste. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like, let's go. Like what y'all we gonna do this next or we gonna do that next? And sometimes you get frustrated, you get upset and you want to back down and you do feel some days that you don't have anything to offer the world because it's kind of like, well, I've done just about everything. But when you start thinking that everything that I've done and everything that I've been through is capital,
That's right.
it is capital, and I can share my story, or I could start a course. You know what I'm saying? I could produce a nonprofit, or when you start thinking on those lines, is what I try to get younger people to think about is that everything that you do is capital.
Um,
Every, Everything that you've been through, whether you're going through it with your kids, there's somebody in this world is saying like, I really need somebody to help me with this.
yeah.
I wish there was a guide or a book or something that somebody wrote and I can read it and help me get,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? But somebody that I can relate to,
That's right.
someone I can relate to. So I love that you said that. Many women hesitate to pursue entrepreneurship later in life because they feel like it's too late or they've missed their opportunity. What would you say to someone who's thinking that way right now?
It's never too late. You only live once. Let's go.
Yeah,
Right. Live your life.
let's go enjoy your life. Um, I think that this is the proper age. That is my perspective. Like 40 and up is the proper age. I feel like in your 20s you having fun, in your 30s you're preparing for the next big thing. And so by the time you hit 40, I feel like you're like I always tell people, my friend told me this a long time ago. She said, when you turn 40, she said you're just gonna do a big shift. She said it's gonna happen overnight. And I was like, I don't know what she's talking about. 40 some years ago, I remember like the next day I woke up and my mindset was different.
Hmm.
How I looked at life and how I viewed life was a lot different. And I was like, wait a minute, she was right. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like she was completely right. And then I found myself thinking like the circles that I was in, I did not fit in those circles anymore.
Hmm.
And I started feeling that way probably like 35, but it was kind of like I was still feeding into it. But by the
Yeah.
time I hit 41, I was like, I ain't got time for this. I don't got time for that. I'm done with this. Okay, what we about to do about
Yeah.
going to the next level? You know what I'm saying? And so I think that it's important that, I love that you say that because a lot of young people feel like I should be further, I should be here, I should be there. But I think this is perfect timing.
Yeah.
This is
I,
perfect timing.
I hate social media for that reason because I feel like social media shows everybody on their mountaintop, but they don't show the journey through the valley, right? And so you have a bunch of people comparing their journey through the valley to somebody else's mountaintop. And it's like, no, that's not realistic. And I think that's why community is so important, like having people around you that are in a similar area of expertise or doing something similar to what you aspire to do, because then
Right.
you can talk about that. They can share the lows and the highs with you and let you know, like, no, 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 you're right on track. Or this is where I was at when this happened. So you get to kind of learn from someone else's experience and it's not as daunting. It doesn't feel as hard when you're
Absolutely.
trying to do it by yourself, right? Which is the other thing that people misunderstand is you don't have to do it by yourself. Who said?
Absolutely. You don't have to do it by yourself. You just have to find your tribe of people that
Mhm.
want to do it with you. You know what I'm saying? And that feels good for both of y'all. You're aligned together. I think that's a beautiful thing. Um, from your perspective as a strategist and a mentor, what are some key systems or habits that people could build that will be sustainable for business without burning themselves out?
There's lots, honestly, and it really depends on what the person is struggling with. I think the number one question I get is I'm overwhelmed and I don't have enough time, right? And
Mhm.
so I always have all of my clients do calendar audits because we all got the same 24 hours. What do you mean? And so I start looking at their systems. I start looking at, like, do you have automations in your business? Do you have a team? Are you delegating? And if you have processes in place, are there bottlenecks? So it's like, let's get into it. Let's talk about it. The other thing I'm really big on is people creating businesses that are aligned to the season they're in. Because a lot of times we come up with a great idea and it checks all the blocks except the capacity one, where you're trying to create something outside of the season you're in and you don't have the capacity to do it long term, if at all. And so you're feeling like a failure. A lot of times, unfortunately, men blame situations on outside issues. Women internalize and we blame things on ourselves. And
Mm.
so knowing that mindset, it's like, okay, instead of me getting bogged down and overwhelmed and frustrated, right? Because I'm feeling like I'm failing. The business may be failing, but you're not failing. I'm
Right.
failing. Let's look at structure. Let's talk about that. So it's not that you're not capable. It might be that you're not being productive enough. So you got to make progress. Running in place is not the same as being productive. Are you doing the right things in your business? Do you have structure in your day? Like, what does your day look like? Are you time blocking? Are you task batching? Right? All of
Right.
those little strategies that sound funny, but they work.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
depending on who I'm talking to, will determine like what strategy I give people, because what you're struggling with may not be what I'm struggling with.
Absolutely. And if someone wanted to inquire about your services, how could they reach you or how could they reach out to you to to, like to set up an appointment with you or to have a discovery call or, an alignment meeting?
My website is chanda-co.com. And then in social media is chanda2_co. So,
Okay. All right. So, in closing remarks, Ms. Shonda, your journey from leaving school at 15 to serving in the Navy, earning your degrees, overcoming personal challenges, and now helping others build business is truly inspiring. Like, it's very inspiring. Before we close, I want to ask you a final question.
sure.
If someone listening right now feels like their circumstances have limited their opportunities,
Mm.
what message would you want that woman or man, what message would you give them today?
I would tell them that it gets easier. You're stronger than you know. So keep going. And if and this is my motto, which probably is why I do all the crazy stuff, but I really believe that if somebody else did it before you, then you can do it too. So whatever crazy dream you have, just find a system, find a model, and just make it your own. You don't have to recreate the wheel to get
Oh,
started. Just find the wheel and make it your own. Redesign it.
design the wheel. I love that. I
Yeah.
do love that. Is there anything else? Like, do you have a book out? Are you aspiring about writing a book? Do you have a course out? Is there anything else that we didn't touch on during the interview that you would like to share?
I do have a book since we talked a lot about emotional stuff. Um, this is called A Daily Dose, and I wrote it back in 2014, pre-COVID.
Miss Shonda.
So
It's called Daily Dose. Hold on, I'm gonna write it down.
yeah.
It's Shonda, y'all.
So what I did is I made my children write in this book, but I also invited people that were close to me to write in this book. But everything that doesn't have a name under it, I wrote it. And it is really geared towards you showing up as your best self to be what the world needs. And so there's things in here I like the power of presence, right? The power of choice. Another one is be you. Like, I don't know, stuff like that. But from time to time, I use it when I'm talking to my clients. If they have bad self-talk, we don't do that. So let's talk about how you can show up. And then it has an area where it asks questions. It has key takeaways so that it's engaging, right? So for the person that may be struggling, the person that don't know how they're going to show up and who they are, because self-awareness is so key.
Right.
And this is a great tool to have. I still read it and be like, oh my God, that is so good. I wrote that.
You wrote that. You wrote that. And can they find that book on Amazon? Or
It is on Amazon. It is. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. So that book's on Amazon. All right. So stories like Miss Chanda remind us of adversary does not have to define the end of our story. Sometimes, I can't talk today. Adversary becomes the training guard to where we are preparing to go next. Success is rarely a straight line. And so, what she has showed us today is that there was no straight line. There were like curves, there were like bumps, there were like humps. She was on a bicycle and she fell off. Like there were a lot of things going on in her life. But still, out of all of that, she received 2 degrees. She left an abusive, she received 4 degrees, left an abusive relationship, has healthy children. Yes, she did experience some loss because during this process of becoming an entrepreneur, you do experience loss.
Yeah.
But she is also helping in a nonprofit organization people who face gun violence, the loss of someone during gun violence, or maybe they lived through it and they face gun violence.
Yeah.
And she's going out into her community and she's supporting people in her community, which is big. And the biggest of them all is helping women over 40. So us girlies over 40 or almost hitting into 40, we need that because sometimes we do get stuck in our head. We do feel like the world has made us feel like 40 and up is old and this is the end of, end of the world. But I feel like this is the best age. I don't know. I've been loving the 40s. So I feel like this is the best age. And I don't know why I was scared to get here. So if you're a woman who wants to build a business and you feel like you don't have anything to bring to the table, Miss Chanda is here to help you. Please, 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 y'all reach out to her, contact her, get in her inbox, follow her, subscribe. When this show airs, y'all know I'm going to have all of her contact information there. And then she has a book, The Daily Dose, that is in Amazon. And I'm going to, her name is up there, y'all. I'm sorry. Chanda, Coston is the last name. Go to Amazon, get that book. Get that book because she wrote that book. So, anything else you want to say, Miss Chanda, before we get out of here?
Not at all. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an amazing conversation. Love having conversation with like-minded people. So
yeah, I appreciate you and everyone as usual. I love y'all. Thank y'all for tuning into the show and just continue to tune into the show.